We've got a big show this morning talking about little things. What's it all about? You'll find out coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Garden City office of Santee Cooper. We're focused on the Children's Miracle Network celebration, which was held this past weekend. And we're visiting with the Executive Director of the McLeod Health Foundation, Jill Bramblett. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Big celebration this weekend. Congratulations.
It was fabulous.
The tremendous numbers, and of course the weather held, and even if it didn't, it was going to be a big celebration anyway.
It was, and it's such a wonderful time because we're doing so much for the children throughout this entire region, so it really is all worthwhile.
Oh yeah, and all year round you all have been raising funds that really, I guess, culminated this past weekend.
That's right. It all comes together this weekend to really make a difference for our kids.
You had a big goal to try to overcome from last year with $860-some thousand that were raised last year.
That's right.
You still feel good. I guess you'll still have some dollars that'll trickle in over the next month or so, or did everything have to stop this past week?
Oh no, we'll still get some trickling in, and you know, anybody who wants to make a gift, we will always welcome it.
Great, good, absolutely. Well, a lot to talk about with the Children's Miracle Network, and of course McLeod Health and the foundation of which you've been the executive director for the last almost 5 years.
That's right.
A lot happening in the PD area that serves a lot more folks than just in the PD area.
Right, more than 50% of the patients that we serve come from outside the Florence area.
Is that right?
Yeah, because we serve a 12-county region all the way through Horry County, all in northeastern South Carolina, and then also in southeastern North Carolina.
Is that right?
Yeah,
so Robinson, Scotland, Columbus counties, that's...
I don't know if we go as far as Columbus, but we do Robinson and Scotland.
Okay, good. Well, that's perfect, right down I-95 for them to be able to get a quick shot down to y'all.
Yeah, and we do see a lot of people from I-95 that have been in accidents, you know, that are traveling because we're right there.
Jill, how long have you been at McLeod, actually?
I have been there for really 15 and a half years.
Okay, good.
I started working in the Children's Hospital as a volunteer coordinator, so it's really near and dear to my heart, and had, at the time, 3 young children when I started working there who have now made me feel a little bit older. But I found out firsthand why it's so important to have a children's hospital right there in a community.
So you've answered it that the Children's Hospital is at least older than 15 years old. How long has McLeod had a children's hospital?
It's been since about 1980 that we had a children's hospital. And we are a hospital within a hospital. We have a children's hospital floor that has all the services of a children's hospital. So we are not a freestanding building, but we are an entire floor and some more that's designated to the care of children.
Of course, we've heard a lot recently. Joe Fisher and a lot of the volunteers with the PD division of the March of Dimes have been on the show and highlighting the neonatal intensive care unit at McLeod. Just a couple weeks ago, I think one of the folks you had out recently, Chris and Riley Saffels, were with us, and of course his daughter Riley, who is a beneficiary of the tremendous expertise you all have at McLeod.
Yeah, it truly is amazing when you walk into the neonatal intensive care unit and you see a baby there that weighs a pound. I mean, that's like, if you think about a Beanie Baby, the size of a Beanie Baby, I mean, it's that small, or a 16-ounce can of Coke. I mean, they're so small, you literally can't touch them because their skin is so fragile it can just tear the skin. So it's amazing when you go in there that these babies that are born, you know, at 22, 23 weeks, so many of them are able to survive and do well.
Jill, do you get by there often? Do you actually go in there? Is that a reminder on a regular basis, or I'm sure you must take the time to do that?
I do. I was just in there the other day. We always like to go in there and thank the staff for all that they do. We have a tremendous staff, and it's extremely expensive to run that unit.
Oh, yeah.
We have one staff person, one nurse for every 2 babies.
Is that right? One nurse for every 2 babies. And you've got 40 beds in the neonatal intensive care unit. Wow.
And then possibly sometimes one nurse for every 1 baby, just depending on how critical they are.
The severity of the condition there.
And then like one of our miracle children that you saw this past weekend, John Sobieski, he actually is from Myrtle Beach, and his mother had a syndrome called HELLPS, H-E-L-P-P-S, I believe is how you spell it. No, it's H-E-L-L-P-S. and all of her organs were shutting down. And so her liver was failing, and her blood pressure was so high that they were afraid she was going to have a stroke. So the only way to save the mother's life, even though the baby was still doing well, is to take the baby. So John was born at 27 weeks, only weighing like 1 pound and 15 ounces. When he got there, we had just purchased a new piece of equipment from funds that we had raised through Children's Miracle Network called a jet ventilator. A jet ventilator helps the child breathe in that situation. It breathes for them 400 times a minute. You and
400 times a minute, wow.
You and I only breathe 20 times a minute. So you can imagine how important that piece of equipment was. And so John needed that piece of equipment. He was the first baby to utilize it, and it really helped save his life.
And children or a child in the womb at 27 weeks is breathing that many times a minute, or is
well, at that point, usually they're not. You know, they're not using their lungs yet.
Right. So they really need that kind of constant feeding of air to survive.
Right. They'll be on the ventilator for a while until they can start breathing on their own. Not to mention all the other complications that these babies at such a young age can have.
You said you joined McLeod, and it was at 91 as the volunteer coordinator for the Children's Hospital.
That's right.
That's tremendous. So had you grown up thinking you always wanted to work with children or be a volunteer coordinator?
No, actually, I used to be in retail.
Oh, really?
Many years ago when we lived in Atlanta. So, but I had majored in a major that was doing therapeutic recreation, so then I got involved with the Children's Hospital, so I was able actually to work with the children and their family and also help provide volunteers. We have an enormous playroom, if you will. It's called the Child Life Activity Center in the Children's Hospital, and we bring children when they're able to get out of their rooms down there for activities. They know it's a safe place. No doctor or nurse is allowed to go in there and do any kind of procedures.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and then when they get down there, they don't want to go home.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
So, and that's where we broadcast live from this past weekend. We were in the Child Life Activity Center.
A lot of viewers of WBTW on TV 13, and of course that's when all TV stations really wrap around the experience of trying to highlight the success of a big fundraiser like you all are doing year-round, Children's Miracle Network. And of course you were also at Dead Dog Saloon out in front of Coastal Grand Mall.
We were.
There.
They were wonderful to us. We were there last year and this year, and it's just wonderful to be there in that setting. And Charlie does a wonderful job of helping to support us.
Oh, he does, absolutely. Are you a PD area native, Jill?
Actually, no. I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay, so you're Palmetto State native, yeah.
But I've been there for about 18 years. So
golly, good.
It's home now.
That's right. And do you still have family in the area?
In Columbia, I do, but I have 2 boys that went to the University of South Carolina, and one has graduated and lives in Charlotte now, who's a civil engineer, and one that's having a really good time at Carolina right now. And then I still have one at home.
Great, good.
Yeah.
So still keeping your hand in the, still staying active probably with, so 3 boys.
No, 1 girl. The one at home is a girl.
The one at home is a girl.
Yeah.
When we think about the Children's Miracle Network, has it been around a long time? Yeah,
it's been around. This is the 25th anniversary for Children's Miracle Network, and I don't know that everybody understands what Children's Miracle Network is. So it's a national organization that originally was started by the Osmonds. You know, Marie Osmond is still very, very involved, along with John Schneider.
Right.
And they support more than 170 children's hospitals throughout the United States and Canada.
170?
Yeah, 170. McLeod Children's Hospital is the Children's Miracle Network hospital in this region. There are also 3 other Children's Miracle Network hospitals in the state of South Carolina, one being in Charleston, MUSC, Palmetto Richland in Columbia, and the Greenville Hospital System in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
So those are the 4 anchor children's hospitals in the state, and they are all Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So there are sponsors that participate with Children's Miracle Network. Walmart, Food Lion, Eckerd's, the list goes on. And all the funds raised by those sponsors in our region stay local to support the local children's hospital.
Is that right? They all stay local?
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
100% of every dollar that's raised stays right here to help the children at McLeod Children's Hospital. And then 100% of every dollar goes directly to the Children's Hospital. There's no administrative costs. Nothing comes out of that money. It's 100% gift to the Children's Hospital.
There's no administrative cost. You mean because the person that would help facilitate those dollars is actually an employee almost always, I guess, or always, of the member hospital? Yeah,
so every dollar that comes in comes straight to us, and we turn around and give every single dollar to the Children's Hospital.
That is tremendous.
Yeah, so it's it truly has helped us so much over the years.
Yes, absolutely. And how did you all go about raising funds for the Children's Hospital prior to the Children's Miracle Network?
It's just grassroots fundraising, building relationships. I truly feel like people give to people. They have to believe in your cause, but you have to make them understand your cause. And to me, there's no better cause than helping children. I truly think it just pulls at everybody's heartstrings. I know it did at mine. And I had a child who ended up in the Children's Hospital when I was working up there. He started having neck pains, and of course I'm saying, oh, I'm just overreacting. I see things in the Children's Hospital, so there's nothing wrong. But we ended up taking him to the emergency room, and he had meningitis.
He had meningitis.
Yeah. Luckily, after 3 days, we found out it was viral and not bacterial. But it was a scary time for me, and thank God the Children's Hospital was there.
Yeah.
You know, because they really made him so much more comfortable, made me so much comfortable, and they know how to treat children, and that's so important.
Jill, absolutely. Speaking of that, you've got one of the posters from, which I guess really helped culminate in the celebration from this weekend.
That's
Can you share with viewers a little bit about each of the 5 children here? Of course, you mentioned John Sobieski there at the bottom right here. Who are some of the other children, and why are the reasons they were miracle children?
Well, really this is very regional. John was from Myrtle Beach, which we just talked about.
Right.
This is Andrew, and this is Eddie Ramsey. This is a really neat story because these 2 boys have what you call brittle bone disease, meaning that they could just move suddenly any way and it breaks their bones. It's a very, very painful illness to have. Eddie actually is from the Ukraine. And Andrew is from Florence. Eddie was adopted from the Ukraine when he was 2 and brought over, and these 2 boys have formed a bond because you don't see a lot of children with this disease.
Right.
And so they have gotten to know each other. They had done some treatments actually in Canada, and they've been served for a long time by our Children's Hospital. This is Elizabeth. She's actually from Timmonsville, South Carolina, and she was in a terrible accident with her brother where she had severe head trauma and internal injuries.
A car accident.
Car accident, right, on her way to school. And so she was in an infantile state. She was in a coma. It took her 5 months of hospitalization and rehabilitation to recover. And she's still going through rehab today, but she's doing fabulous, as everybody could see this week, and she's a wonderful little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then this is Levon. Levon is from Hemingway, South Carolina, and he actually was involved in a very tragic automobile accident where his mother was killed, as well as his uncle. And he sustained severe broken bones throughout his body and really just crushed his face, and his face had to be rebuilt. And the funniest thing that the doctors have told us was that they promised him, once they took the wires off of his face when he was wired, he wanted a hamburger so bad, so they promised to give him a hamburger. And so as soon as he was able to eat, they gave him that hamburger, and I mean, it was probably the best hamburger he's ever had in his entire life.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. 5 amazing children. Of course, there's so many other children that are impacted and supported by the Children's Miracle Network and what it does to raise funds to support children's hospitals.
That's correct. It really is. We have so many children. These are just representation of all the children. But they're truly all miracles, and we're just blessed to have such a generous community.
That is. And of course, a lot of folks were watching from 2 to 10 p.m., 2 p.m. on this past Saturday.
Till midnight, yeah.
On WBTW, and watching for that full 10 hours. A lot of folks, I'm sure, were tuned in.
Yeah,
almost that entire time.
Yeah.
Of course, y'all were broadcasting from McLeod and from Dead Dog. Of these 5 children, were they located at the 2 locations, or spread out, or were they all with you in Florence?
They all came to Florence because they like to come back and see the doctors and the nurses and the staff that cared for them. So, but we did have. I don't know if you know little Parker Davis. He's a miracle child from a couple of years ago that's from Myrtle Beach. His mother is a firefighter and her father is a police officer.
I didn't know that.
And they didn't know their local heroes, and they didn't know they were going to need the heroes at the hospital when she went into premature labor. But anyway, he's like 5 or 6 now, and just the cutest thing you've ever seen. Very rambunctious, all boy.
Parker Davis, all boy.
All boy.
Sounds like a mama.
Yeah, but he was at Dead Dog for an interview, and then he came to the hospital. They drove to Florence after they did that interview here because they still wanted to be back with all the festivities.
That's great. I bet. I bet. So, of course, are the other 3 member hospital, or the other 3 children's hospitals in the state that are supported by the Children's Miracle Network, as well as other, are they also, are they similar in scope, or much larger or smaller? What are they?
I'd say they're similar. They are a little bit larger. Every hospital has different specialties.
Right.
We do treat children with cancer. But then we don't actually have a pediatric oncologist. So most children who are diagnosed with cancer that need cancer treatments would go to Columbia, sometimes in USC.
Right, right.
But we have really gotten a lot of pediatric specialists in our area. We have the only pediatric orthopedist in this whole region. So
is that right? The only pediatric orthopedist, is that right?
Yeah, so children come from all over. They come from Sumter, Greenville, all over the area to come to us. We have a pediatric endocrinologist that helps take care of children with diabetes and other kind of issues, and she's the only one in this area right now. We have a pediatric cardiologist, so it's expensive to operate a children's hospital.
Absolutely.
But we want to provide those services because we are the choice for medical excellence, and it's important to our community.
So glad you mentioned that, Jill. If a viewer needs to get off to work now, we've got about 10 minutes, but if someone needs to get off to work or get family off to school, I guess one of the last big weeks of school, what's the best phone number to call for someone to learn about how they could be involved supporting the McLeod Health Foundation or the Children's Hospital?
Okay. If they could call 843-777-2694.
Okay, great.
That's the foundation's number, and we also have lots of volunteer opportunities if anybody ever wants to
great,
volunteer.
Good, yeah.
So.
Do you all have a website as well?
We do. It's on www.mcleodhelp.org, and McLeod is MCLEOD Help.
Okay, right.
And then if you're interested in making a gift, you can just click on the CMN icon that you'll see at the bottom of the page, and that'll take you right to making a gift.
That's good, secure access. Folks who aren't used to making donations, but they could also call and get your address to just mail in a donation.
Certainly.
Or even come by when they're offering some volunteer hours, I'm sure. What are some of the volunteer needs y'all would have at the Children's Hospital?
Well, they have, I'm not sure what they call them anymore. They used to call them huggers or rockers, but you can actually go into either the newborn nursery or into the neonatal intensive care unit when a baby is at a point where they can be held and rocked, and you can rock the babies and sometimes feed them. It's hard on the parents when they have other children at home or that they live outside of the Florence area to get back and forth every single day.
Right.
So we try to have volunteers that help, just hold and cuddle and be with these children.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I did want to mention for parents who do, or parents, not just children, but anybody who comes from outside the Florence area, we have a house there which is called the Guest House at McLeod.
Okay.
And it's a place that's like a home with 17 bedrooms and a kitchen that you can access, that you can stay if you're from outside the Florence area, and the cost is only $15 a night.
$15 a night, and there's 17 bedrooms, so assumably oftentimes there's a little room there.
Yeah, and it's directly across the street from McLeod, so you're close to your loved one while they're going through whatever procedure they may be involved with. But since we have such a large amount of folks that come from Horry County, I did want people to know that that does exist.
That is tremendous. Now, is that just for parents or loved ones of folks in the Children's Hospital or the entire McLeod Health?
The entire McLeod Health
system. The entire organization, okay. And you all have a pretty big facility up there. How many beds in the entire facility? Do you have any idea? I know you all have been adding a lot. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, we just added 105 beds. So,
is that right?
It's, I think with our whole system, we're over 500 beds because we do have a hospital in Dillon, and we do have one in Darlington, South Carolina, as well as in Florence.
Boy, the PD, and of course you've got a great institution not far by, Carolina's hospital system, so you've got a lot of tremendous medical care there in the right in the heart of Florence.
We do. We have a wonderful cancer program and heart program, diabetes program. The list just goes on and on.
That is wonderful, Jill. Golly.
Proud to work there. It's very rewarding.
Oh, yeah. You've got to feel that way. When you think so the dollars, are there big national sponsors with the Children's Miracle Network, and were there some good local sponsors that really came out and shined this past weekend, or of course have been shining all year long? Or anyone you really want to highlight?
Well,
probably everyone.
Yeah, everyone. But Walmart is the largest sponsor of Children's Miracle Network, and this is their 20-year anniversary of raising funds.
Is that right? So it's the 25-year-old organization, and this is Walmart's 20th year this past. Oh, wow. And
the figures are staggering. They have raised more than $380 million for Children's Miracle Network hospitals in 20 years. And it's all grassroots fundraising. It's not corporate. It is the employees at the store level selling miracle balloons, the little paper balloons that you've seen.
Sure, of course.
Having bake sales, raffling off an item at the store level doing a golf tournament. So they
Wow.
They truly go above and beyond. And just for McLeod Children's Hospital, they have raised over $1.5 million just for McLeod Children's
Is
Hospital.
that right? And they've been doing that for the last
20 years.
20 years
Yeah.
here locally.
Right, and then Food Lion's been another really huge sponsor of Children's Miracle Network, and they really have, I'm not sure what they've raised since the beginning or how long, but I know they've doubled our fundraising efforts. 2 years ago, they raised about $25,000, and this past year, as we announced, it was over $50,000.
Do they do that grassroots as well, or do
Yes.
they do a mix of corporate support, or
It's all
grass? Oh,
grassroots.
come on.
It's all
Does
store
anyone do
levels.
any corporate level
Well,
sponsors?
and Walmart does do a small corporate gift. To,
Right.
if the stores raise X number of dollars, then they will match it with a gift. So there is some
Right.
corporate dollars involved.
Good, right.
But most of it is just grassroots fundraising at store level.
That's tremendous. And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of folks who were calling in this weekend as y'all were manning the phones over the 10 hours, as viewers on TV 13 were calling in. Who were they calling this weekend?
We had lots of different volunteers who were manning the phones. Some of them were Food Lion employees or some of our other sponsor employees, some
Right.
just volunteers who wanted to be involved. We had Miss Columbia, who is going to be in the Miss South Carolina pageant. Actually,
Great.
her father's a physician at McLeod, and she came and helped. And we had
Good.
some other. Miss America pageant is now a sponsor of Children's Miracle Network.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
And I think Miss South Carolina is a PD native.
She is, Shelley Benthal.
Right.
She's, her dad actually used to help produce the Children's Miracle
Rick
Network
Benthal,
broadcast.
yes,
Right,
we know
so-
Rick well. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so Shelley's a great girl. I hope she goes far with her
Oh,
career.
yeah, that's right. As she's the reigning Miss South Carolina,
Right.
and there'll be a new Miss South Carolina soon.
Right.
That
So-
is wonderful.
But anyway, and then we actually had a really neat concert this year.
Oh, good, yeah.
ZZ Top. Do you remember ZZ Top?
ZZ Top, I've heard of, absolutely. Sure, I remember.
They came to Florence and had a concert for us on a farm called the Palmetto Arabians Farm. Which
You mean
is,
they were playing this weekend?
No, this was not this weekend. This was
Oh, right.
earlier.
You did it earlier this year.
Yeah, but
ZZ Top came to Florence recently.
they did.
I did not know
Yes,
that.
they did. So we had about 1,000 people for a really down-home concert. I mean, you were 6 feet from ZZ Top. You don't get to do that very often.
No, not at all.
But all the proceeds benefited the Children's Hospital.
And y'all raised some good funds that.
We raised about $50,000, which we were able
50.
to. Yeah, we were able to announce this past weekend. So.
That is wonderful. Well, I'm so glad. And of course, to think year after year raising more than $750,000. That's a lot of money
I know.
over the course of a year.
It is, but I tell you, it's put to good use. 50% of the children that we see are either on Medicaid or have no insurance. And
Is
we
that
never
right?
turn a child.
50%?
50%. We never turn a child away. And to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit, and most of those babies are in there for an average of about between 2 and 3 months, it's $5,000 a day.
Oh, come on.
Really, if you could.
$5,000 a day for a
Yeah.
child to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit.
Yeah, so you can see the costs are astronomical.
Yeah. How
and
can
that's
families
why,
pay for that?
well, insurance, or if they can't afford it.
Or the state steps in
Yeah,
there, or McLeod steps in.
pretty much absorbs it, yeah.
Right.
But
If-
that's why it's so expensive to run a children's hospital. And as you'll notice, a lot of hospitals don't have a children's hospital because of that fact.
Right. Wow, that's incredible, Joe. We could stop the interview at that just because that's a kind of an amazing
It
fact
is.
when you think of that, of the 40 beds. And it's pretty crowded on a regular basis in the neonatal
Yeah.
intensive care
Average,
unit.
I'd say the average census is about 33 to 35 babies at a
Of
time.
the 40 that are available.
Right.
And so you have, as you said, at least 2 children for one nurse, but oftentimes you'll have one nurse
Right.
working with one child.
Right, and we have a pediatric intensive care unit we didn't even talk about.
Right, yes,
6
and I'm
beds.
sorry, we just have a minute.
I know.
As you think back through the success of everything culminating up to this past weekend and all the amazing things that you could think about, what was the driving force, the excitement that you saw really expressed over the weekend?
It's just the love for the children. I mean, we just have such a generous community, a generous region, and everybody wants to come together to help our children, and they really have made a difference. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody because it truly touches my heart to see how generous all of our viewers are.
Absolutely. And of course, again, the 777-2694 number, if a viewer could call and give time. Time is really needed for volunteer time, or $1 the most important
Well, we probably need both, but dollars are really important so we can keep providing these services. But we do have volunteer opportunities that we could get people in touch with our volunteer services if they're interested.
That's great. Jill, thanks so much.
Thank
and
you.
congratulations for a tremendous weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Very definitely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Jill Bramblett coming up next. Look at this beautiful picture. Think about that. It's children just like these that were supported this weekend. Children just like these. It's the little things. Read those words. It's the little things that mean so much. One little thing that's a big thing is a phone number. Pick up the pen. Pick up a pencil. Write this down. 843-777-2694. 777-2694. McLeodHealth.org. You can click on that CMN icon. It's a real opportunity to be involved. You think about for Jill here when she joined McLeod back in 1991 to be the volunteer coordinator for the Children's Hospital there. Think about for her, did she ever think that she'd have a family connection there? How often can someone actually join a workplace and know that that workplace is not only going to provide sustenance for them to support their family, but also actually take care of their family? Think of that instance when she and her whole family recognized a real potential issue there when her son concocted meningitis there. They made a difference then. They continue to make a difference every day. Real quick, if we got a second, one rainy December morning, 10-year-old Elizabeth Chard was critically injured in a car accident on the way to school. The accident would change the lives of the Chard family forever. Do I have a second, Donald? Elizabeth had neurological injuries and internal bleeding. She was transported to the pediatric intensive care unit at McLeod Children's Hospital. She remained in a coma for 10 days. When she came out of the coma, she couldn't talk, swallow, or move the left side of her body. Thanks to the specialized staff at McLeod Children's Hospital, she's doing well today. She's a straight-A 7th grade student and has overcome many challenges caused by the accident. Pick up the phone, 777-2694. Support the Children's Miracle Network.